it was the Illuminati who killed Michael Jackson. The general public are unaware that it was the Illuminati who had Michael Jackson murdered. So the question begs, why would they want him dead? For many reasons. But before I go into the details of Michael Jackson's assassination, let me give you a short primer on the Illuminati. Hidden behind the veil of their secret society, the group known as the Illuminati have still managed to garner great attention and acclaim. They have been blamed for everything imaginable, such as being the igniting force behind the French Revolution and being the real masterminds behind the 9/11 attacks. They have been credited with assassinating Presidents Lincoln and Kennedy. Most people have heard of the Illuminati thanks to popular culture exposing them to their existence. However, this exposure came as a result of rumors and innuendos being spread about certain entertainers or celebrities allegedly being part of the Illuminati and owing their fame and fortune to them. Some of these rumors and innuendos were so far-fetched that a great deal of people dismissed them, and as a result became highly skeptical of the Illuminati even existing. The prevailing thought is the Illuminati are nothing more than a lame concoction hatched by those loony conspiracy theorists. They believe this assertion without doing any valid research. If they took the time out to actually do the research, they would discover that the Illuminati do exist in the annals of history and are indeed a powerful group that presently is shaping the world right in front of our eyes. But many are unable to see their hidden hand. Here are the facts. History of the Illuminati. The Illuminati was founded on May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at the University of Bavaria in Ingolstadt in Bavaria, Germany. Weishaupt, who was funded by the Rothschilds, was a Jew who converted to Roman Catholicism and became a Jesuit priest. However, he became dissatisfied with the Catholic Church and later broke away from them to form the Illuminati, who he originally called the Perfectibilists, or the Perfect Ones, as their aim was to create a perfect world where all men and women were equal and the Catholic Church had absolutely no say in government. Weishaupt eventually adopted the name Illuminati, which means enlightened ones, and he modeled his secret society after Freemasonry. He then used his Freemasonry cover to infiltrate the Masonic lodges, with the goal of placing Illuminati members into positions of power. During this particular time period, there were many famous Illuminati members, such as literary men, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Johann Gottfried Herder, and the Dukes of both Weimar and Gotha. However, there was a great opposition to this secret society known as the Illuminati. In 1785, Karl Theodor, ruler of Bavaria, Germany, banned the Illuminati with the blessings of the Catholic Church. Weishaupt fled the country on horseback, and while he was fleeing, dropped some documents which revealed the plans of the Illuminati, which included overthrowing every monarchy in Europe and essentially taking over the world. Some historians note that the Illuminati disbanded in 1785. However, this is contrary to the fact that the Illuminati simply went underground and had prominent members located in the United States and throughout Europe, poised to bring into existence their New World Order agenda, which phrase is symbolically printed on the reverse side of the United States seal and on the dollar bill with the Latin words Novus Ordo Seclorum, which translates to a new order of the ages. President George H.W. Bush, the daddy, infamously introduced the concept of a new world order in an address before a joint session of Congress on the State of the Union in 1991, where he waxed poetically about how the new world order was a big idea where diverse nations were drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind, peace and security, freedom and the rule of law. This all sounds nice, but in reality, the Illuminati's New World Order agenda, headed by the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, is nothing more than a sinister plot by the global elite. And their true intentions and agenda consist of the following: the establishment of a one-world government, the establishment of a one-world army, the establishment of one central bank, a microchipped, enslaved population, a complete totalitarian state. The way that the Illuminati are executing their agenda of the New World Order is through entities such as the military, transnational corporations, the educational system, government and politics, banking, the media, entertainment, religion, organized crime, and through other secret societies such as the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, etc., and through intelligence agencies like the CIA, Mossad, and MI6. I go into greater detail on how the Illuminati operate, the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, the symbolism that they use to communicate and are obsessed with, in my best-selling book entitled, Who Are the Illuminati? The Secret Societies, Symbols, Bloodlines, and the New World Order. This book is available at www.illuminatiagendaexposed.com and also available on Amazon on Kindle, paperback, and audio. The Illuminati and Michael Jackson. So you are probably wondering at this point, what does this secret society known as the Illuminati have to do with the entertainer Michael Jackson? And why would they want him dead? As I said a few seconds ago, the entertainment industry is one of the conduits that the Illuminati use to carry out their agenda. In regard to the entertainment industry, this is carried out in the form of brainwashing and propaganda that is transmitted through the music and images of popular culture. Their goal is to hook the masses of people into a maze of satanic decadence that distracts them from thinking about important issues that affect the world today. It is through this distraction that the Illuminati are able to run amok and create chaos throughout the world without encountering any real resistance. The Illuminati control the entertainment and music industries, lock, stock, and barrel. If an artist wants fame and fortune, they must sell their souls to the powers that be who control these particular industries. No one will ever debate that Michael Jackson's ascent to the top of these industries were a result of his immense, incomparable talents. However, to reach the status of King of Pop and the status of being the #1 entertainer in the world, he had to first get the blessings and approval of the Illuminati power structure. Why is this so? For the simple fact that he would automatically be in a very powerful position to influence the minds of billions of people throughout the world through his music. So he had to be deemed safe by the Illuminati, and the perfect vehicle for promoting and carrying out their agenda. Everything worked out well in the beginning, as Michael Jackson became a child superstar with the Jackson 5, which included his brothers, Jermaine, Tito, Marlon, Jackie, and Randy. They were all managed by their disciplinarian father, Joe Jackson, and had mega hits such as ABC, Got to Be There, Nothing Can Say Goodbye, and many others. Speaking of Joe Jackson, it is alleged that Michael Jackson was initiated into the Illuminati culture in a sexual way via Joe Jackson's arranged meetings with high-powered businessmen. It is said that Michael detested these particular meetings and tried to escape them. Jermaine Jackson has also been allegedly reported to have said that after these meetings occurred, Michael would be sick for days. He also allegedly wondered what Joseph was doing. Was Michael Jackson an MK-Ultra slave? Many experts familiar with CIA MK-Ultra mind control programming said that Michael Jackson fit the profile of a typical MK-Ultra slave. In case you are not familiar with it, let me explain to you what MK-Ultra is. MK-Ultra was an illegal U.S. government human research operation experimenting in the behavioral engineering of humans through the CIA's Scientific Intelligence Division. The MK-Ultra project used sinister methodologies to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions. Some of these methodologies included the administering of drugs, chemicals, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, verbal and sexual abuse. Kathleen Sullivan, an admitted former Illuminati slave, states on her blog the following about Michael Jackson in regards to being an MK-Ultra slave. I have been tracking Michael Jackson in the news for about 10 years now. For reasons I will not get into in a public forum, I could state that I have absolutely no doubt that he is an MK Ultra variety slave, possibly introduced by his father into the bizarre system of spooks, commercialized pedophilia, and more. My father introduced me to organized criminal pedophilia from early childhood on. Like Michael, I developed many altered states of consciousness to cope with the horrors I experienced and encountered. I also have no doubt that he would have been terribly abused as a child. Even if he hadn't allegedly been given to others as a child to sexually service them, there is no explanation for his obsession with being with children in public and privately, especially in bed. Bryce Taylor, another former Illuminati slave, stated in her book, Thanks for the Memories, that she accompanied legendary comedian Bob Hope to a place that had a showcase for up-and-coming talent for television shows. At this particular place, she said that Michael Jackson and his brothers were to partake in his showcase. Bryce Taylor shockingly states that Bob Hope told her he was sponsoring the Jacksons in an effort to expand their careers. Before they were set to perform, Bryce allegedly recalls that their father, Joe Jackson, led them to a side room where all the boys had to drop their pants, and a big man raped each one of them in a lineup. You can believe Bryce's story or not. That's entirely up to you, and I admit, it's quite a shocking story. However, you can rest assured that Michael Jackson's superior talents alone were not enough for him to achieve superstardom and worldwide acclaim. He and his brothers had to be financed, marketed, and distributed by the music and entertainment Illuminati in order for them to achieve that success. In the beginning, the powers that be didn't have a problem with Michael Jackson because he was perceived as a non-threat to them because of his passive and meek image, and the belief that his only concern and focus was on his music, dancing, and entertainment of the public. In fact, he obliged the powers to be quite clearly, as he put their Illuminati symbols on his album covers and in his videos. For example, if you take a look at his Dangerous album cover, if you don't have it, just Google a picture of it. On the left side of the album cover, there are roller coaster cars entering the tunnel with a Masonic symbol above the door. The cars are also filled with different animals, and they are all shown coming out of the tunnel with the Illuminati's all-seeing eye above the door. There are also other strong Illuminati symbols on this particular album cover. Michael Jackson, shrewd businessman, or Peter Pan. Even though Michael Jackson portrayed to the public a meek and childlike image with the appearance of wanting to be the next Peter Pan, he was actually a very shrewd and aggressive businessman. When his Thriller album became a huge success, he was flushed with cash. He was looking to invest this windfall into something that would give him returns many times over, so he sought the advice of John H. Johnson, owner of the Johnson Publishing Empire and black publications Ebony and Jet magazines. Michael Jackson did not want to end up being broke like the entertainers and celebrities before him, so he asked John H. Johnson, in what should he invest his money? Johnson advised him to invest his money into the publishing business. Paul McCartney also had a heavy influence on Michael in regard to investing his money into publishing. Michael briefly lived with Paul and Linda McCartney while recording their duet, Say, Say, Say. During Michael's stay, Paul McCartney showed him a list of every single song that he'd purchased a decade before and said that he'd made $40 million in royalties in 1 year from owning these songs. After this revelation, Michael Jackson looked and said to him, "Someday I'm going to own your songs." To which Paul McCartney replied, "Hey, great joke." However, Michael was very serious about his intentions. In fact, he went on to invest millions acquiring the rights to a wide variety of artists that included Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, Little Richard, and Ray Charles. He also owned the rights to a number of songs written by legendary songwriters Gamble and Huff, and owned the entire catalog of Sly and the Family Stone. However, his biggest acquisition was when he acquired the rights to every single song in the Beatles catalog through his purchase of ATV Music Publishing, which owned the rights to over 4,000 songs, which included 250 songs made by the Beatles during Beatlemania. In an ironic twist, Robert Holmes Accord, who owned ATV Music Publishing at that time, actually offered the catalog to Paul McCartney and John Lennon's wife Yoko Ono first, and they turned him down. Paul McCartney remarked that he couldn't see himself paying an exorbitant amount for songs that he and his friends wrote. But Michael Jackson saw the huge potential and immense value of owning such a catalog and assessed and purchased ATV Music Publishing for $47.5 million, bringing true to his prediction of one day owning Paul McCartney's songs. Michael wasted no time monetizing the Beatles' catalog. He immediately increased the licensing fees and licensed the song Revolution to Nike for $500,000, which infuriated Paul McCartney, who felt that was way too high a price to pay. But from Michael's point of view, he was just maximizing the return on his investment, which any businessman has a right to do. Michael also did something unprecedented. He gave Little Richard back the songs to his catalog, which Michael now owned, because he knew that black entertainers were exploited the harshest by the music establishment. In addition to this, he also made sure that Sly Stone received royalties from his music. These particular moves that Michael Jackson made drew the ire of Illuminati-controlled music establishment, especially in regard to the benevolence he showed towards fellow entertainers, because essentially, the music industry makes a tremendous amount of money from literally sucking the blood of artists and viciously exploiting them. By Michael giving back Little Richard's songs and making sure that Sly Stone received royalties from his music, he bucked the system. The minute Michael Jackson gained ownership of this valuable catalog of songs, the powers that be plotted and worked feverishly to gain access to it. In 1995, Sony Music approached Michael with an offer to pay him $95 million to merge his ATV Music Publishing with Sony's catalog, forming a 50-50 joint-owned venture. It was basically an offer Michael couldn't refuse because it was very attractive and lucrative. Not only did he earn back twice his initial investment, he now owned 50% of a much larger company, which eventually grew to over 2 million songs. As a result of his shrewd business move, Michael now owns songs by artists such as Eminem, Lady Gaga, Bob Dylan, and other highly acclaimed artists. Michael Jackson hates Sony and Tommy Mottola. In a few short years, things became sour between Michael Jackson and Sony. He was dissatisfied with them as an artist, and he felt that they were purposely under-promoting him. He believed that there was a conspiracy against him, and the true aim of this lack of promotion was to use financial trickery to say that his albums weren't making a profit and costing Sony money. He was supposedly in the red and actually owed Sony money for marketing and promotion. Michael believed that this was an attempt to squeeze him financially. He surmised that Sony believed that if he got further into debt, he had outstanding bank loans with Bank of America in which he was making payments. He would be forced to sell his 50% share in the partnership to them, enabling them to wrestle sole ownership of the publishing catalog. Things began to happen to Michael. During this time period, he was accused of child molestation, which he settled out of court for $20 million. After this incident, he was once again hit with another charge of child molestation, of which he was found innocent in a court of law. Michael's public image took a beating. Sponsors abandoned him in droves, and the public's perception of him changed completely. Michael was under constant attack, and once again, he believed there was a conspiracy against him. As he stated in his interview with Ed Bradley of 60 Minutes, Michael stated the following: "My album is #1 all over the world, and America is the only place where it's not #1 because it's a conspiracy." Michael began to speak out against Sony, and the head of their music division, Tommy Mottola, even went as far as launching an anti-Sony campaign which included rallies with slogans such as "Sony kills music" and "Sony sucks." He also recorded the anti-establishment song, "They Don't Really Care About Us." As Michael's relationship with Sony progressively deteriorated, he anticipated his exit from Sony altogether. He continued to vociferously speak out and hammer Sony publicly. On July 9, 2001, at Al Sharpton's National Action Network organization located in New York City, he said the following: "The minute I started breaking the all-time record sales, I broke Elvis's records, I broke the Beatles' records. The minute Thriller became the all-time selling record in the Guinness Book of World Records, overnight, they called me a freak. They called me a homosexual. They called me a child molester. They said I bleached my skin. They made everything to turn the public against me. This is a complete conspiracy. You have to know that. On July 15th, 2002, almost a year later, he came out even bolder with his claims against Sony. In a gathering in London, he said the following: "The tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, the story is usually the same. These guys work really hard at their craft, and their story ends the same. They are usually broken, torn, and usually just sad, and the story is very sad at the end because the company takes advantage of them. They really do. And Sony, being the artist that I am, I have generated several billions of dollars for Sony, and they really thought my mind was on music and dancing, and it usually is. But they never thought that this performer, myself, would outthink them. So we can't let them get away with what they're trying to do now, because I'm a free agent. I owe Sony just one more album, and it's just a box set. So I'm leaving Sony a free agent, owning half of Sony. I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me. I just did good business, and Tommy Mottola is the devil." Mariah Carey, after divorcing Tommy, came to me crying. She was crying so bad that I had to hold her. She said to me that this is an evil man. "Michael, this man follows me. He taps my phone, and he is very, very evil. I don't trust him, and he's a horrible human being." Also during this time period, around the time of his molestation trial, media reports began to surface stating that Michael Jackson was flat broke. Michael refuted this notion in an interview with the Reverend Jesse Jackson when he stated, "That's not true at all. That's just one of their many schemes to embarrass me and drag me through the mud. And it's the same pattern, so don't believe any of this tabloid sensationalized kind of gossip." My personal beliefs on the subject of Michael Jackson being broke is that he felt in his mind, and based on the financial numbers, how could it even be possible that he was flat broke when he owned a music publishing catalog worth more than $2 billion? Although it appears that he had mounting debts and his cash flow wasn't as strong as it used to be. I personally believe that in order for him to extinguish these mounting debts and be cash flow positive, he would have to sell a portion of his catalog, or the entire thing. There was no way that he was going to do that. Another viable option for him to tame his debts was touring, which he had not done in years. Despite this fact, Michael received an offer from AEG, Anschutz Entertainment Group, to do a supposedly 50-show London World Tour, which, according to the New York Times, would have netted him $132 million. Michael, seeing the value of this opportunity, signed the contract. Despite having signed the contract, according to those around him, he never really consented to do 50 shows because he knew that he was not physically capable of doing them. Also, the people close to him believed the same thing, because Michael was very frail and had health concerns. Some AEG employees even had doubts as to whether Michael would be able to perform. They considered him a basket case. LaToya Jackson, Michael's sister, stated in her memoir entitled Starting Over that she believed that something fishy was going on with the AEG deal. She said that Michael confided in her he would never do a tour again because he believed that he would be assassinated on stage. She also said that Michael only signed on to do 10 shows, and the next thing you know, when he wakes overnight, there's 50 shows, and they told him he had to do them, which he said they knew he wouldn't be able to do. LaToya went on to state the following: "They knew he wasn't capable of them. They knew he wasn't healthy enough. He had a kidney problem. He was extremely thin. He was always freezing. They knew what they were doing. This isn't what I'm thinking. These are facts." Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Conrad Murray was hired by AEG to be Michael Jackson's personal physician at a salary of $150,000 a month. Murray began treating Michael Jackson. For Michael's insomnia, he illegally pumped him with the powerful surgical anesthetic propofol, which is rarely administered outside the parameter of a hospital. The question begs, why would Murray administer a drug illegally to Michael Jackson and risk losing his medical license? More than likely, it was the pressure of being in debt. According to court records, Murray was heavily into debt and was ordered to pay creditors $435,000, which included a student loan. In addition, property records showed that at the time, he was in serious jeopardy of foreclosing on his home that he had on the 18th hole of a country club. He also refinanced his property 3 times in 5 years, and now at approximately $1.7 million on a house with a value of $1.08 million. I must also note that he had child support payments, in which he was in arrears. He was also supporting his wife, son, and daughter, and court records showed that he also owed thousands of dollars to a woman in California with whom he had a son. On top of that, he was supporting 2 additional daughters he had with a woman in Las Vegas. So, as you can clearly see, the job as Michael Jackson's personal physician at $150,000 per month was much needed to provide some type of financial relief to Murray. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him financially, and he closed his Las Vegas practice so he could concentrate solely on Michael. Make no mistake about it, Murray was probably chosen by Michael because he knew that he could provide him with what he needed in the form of medication in a discreet manner. I wholeheartedly believe that this is true because Michael Jackson admitted publicly that he was addicted to painkillers and entered a drug rehabilitation program in 1993. Michael Jackson, murdered. Conrad Murray began working with Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson wound up dead. He was pronounced dead on June 25, 2009, and the Los Angeles County coroner ruled that his death was the result of an overdose of propofol. Murray, when interviewed by investigators, admitted that he had given Michael Jackson propofol for 60 consecutive nights to treat his insomnia, and also so that he could get rest for his rehearsals. He also stated that Michael was addicted to propofol, and Murray said that Michael referred to the drug as his milk. Murray also said at the time he was trying to wean Michael off of propofol by giving him small amounts. But in her memoir, LaToya Jackson said that this wasn't true, because according to the coroner, Michael had enough propofol in him to kill an elephant. Murray was subsequently arrested, charged, and convicted of manslaughter. Murray only served 2 years of a 4-year sentence for killing the greatest entertainer the world has ever seen. But to many, Murray was nothing but a fall guy, a patsy. There were powerful people and entities who had a lot to gain from Michael Jackson's death. LaToya said that Michael told her that he would be murdered for his very valuable publishing catalog. She said that immediately after his death, people that Michael eliminated from his life came in, lurking, asking questions about the catalog. Michael's son, Prince Jackson, testifying in the Jackson family's wrongful death suit trial against AEG, recalled an instance when Michael was talking to AEG over the phone. Prince stated, after he got off the phone, he would cry. He also stated that Michael said to him repeatedly, "They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me." Prince elaborated even further and said that the "they" that Michael was referring to was AEG Live CEO Randy Phillips and his ex-manager Dr. Tome Tome. Michael even lamented to close confidence that he was worth more dead than alive. In spite of these claims, AEG was found not guilty in the wrongful death suit brought against them by the Jackson family. So, what about Michael's valuable music publishing catalog? Who actually won the battle over that prized possession once he was murdered? Well, let's take a closer look. His catalog, as well as his other assets, went to his estate upon his death, and his mother and children own a percentage of the estate. John Branca, Michael's longtime entertainment attorney, who Michael allegedly fired after Michael supposedly ordered an internal investigation of his own inner circle, became one of the co-executors of the estate, along with music executive John McClane. They both received substantial fees for administrating Michael's estate. But if Michael Jackson supposedly terminated John Branca, how did he become executor of Michael's estate? Supposedly, it was in Michael's will that he drew up a long time before that Branca and McCain were to be the co-executors of his estate in the event of his death. However, the Jackson family claimed that this particular will was a forgery, Nonetheless, in 3 short years, the estate reported a $475 million profit, which resulted in a huge financial windfall for both McLean and Branca. And what about Sony? Just 9 months after Michael's death, Sony signed a deal with Michael Jackson's estate to sell Michael's back catalog. In addition, they were given access to a large vault of unreleased songs. This deal is for a whopping 10 albums and is set to expire in 2017. The estate will receive upwards of $250 million in advances, as well as other payments. Michael, as he said, was worth more dead than alive. Now the question begs, if Michael hated and loathed Sony so much that he was about to leave them as an artist, why did the executors of his estate sign a deal with them after his death to deliver more albums to them? And what about AEG? Even though they were found not guilty in the wrongful death suit brought by the Jackson family, they still tried to collect on a $17.5 million Lloyd's of London insurance policy after Michael's death canceled the tour. This claim was rejected when it was revealed in a leaked email that AEG had concerns over Michael's health and stability before the tour. A wider conspiracy. Although Conrad Murray was ultimately convicted in the death of Michael Jackson, I strongly believe without a shadow of a doubt that the murder of Michael Jackson involved a wider conspiracy. The powers that be saw him as a threat because he wasn't the Peter Pan character they believed him to be. This was sure to be a problem for them because he had influence over billions of people throughout the world. The Illuminati feared that he would use his influence in a way that would be counterproductive to their agenda. He also owned 50% of the world's most valuable music publishing catalog, and he wasn't willing to part with it. So in their eyes, he had to be eliminated. Michael Jackson is just one example of a historical figure being murdered because they stood in the way of the secret society known as the Illuminati, or flat out rejected their overtures. In another book I've also written entitled The Illuminati's Greatest Hits, Deception, Conspiracies, Murders and Assassinations by the World's Most Powerful Secret Society, I cover, in detail, the assassinations of other historical figures who have met their demise as a result of the Illuminati. I explore in great detail the assassinations of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Patrice Lumumba, Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy Jr., Pope John Paul I, Louis XVI, Jamie Roldas, Omar Torrijos, Muammar Gaddafi, and Princess Diana. I also reveal the real reason why the Titanic ship was sunk. This book is also available on Amazon and www.illuminatiagendaexposed.com, where you can also sign up for our free newsletter, which keeps you up to date and informed on matters relating to the Illuminati and the New World Order.